Hi, this is Brian Kim. I'm going to share with you case number 290 in the Best Way to Do Cataract Surgery series. And the title of this series is not to suggest this is the best and only way, but to get you to think critically of your technique so that you can provide the very best for your patient. And so this is a small pupil and a dense cataract. And you're going to see me utilizing a combination of techniques. I'll be performing terminal chop, cross chop, manually fracturing this lens, bringing pieces into the central safe zone, crushing and emulsifying, and in my opinion, this is really the ideal technique for small pupil cases. So you can see this is the left eye. This patient has a little bit of a Bell's reflex. I'm using the cotton tip to steady the eye and then using a corneal marker, which will help me to center and size the rhexis. You can see the patient has kind of wild eye movements, and so I'm be mindful using the cotton tip to control the eye. This is my paracentesis incision, first on the right side and then the left side, making sure I'm parallel to iris plane, which creates a nice corneal shelf, which will allow me to achieve a self-sealing incision. This is intracameral epinephrine, and then some dispersive viscoelastic, the endocoat. You can see the pupil is huge now, which is really nice, but as the case progresses, when the viscodilation wears off from the viscoelastic, the pupil will come down. So this is a triplanar corneal incision. I make a vertical groove, place the blade into the deep part of the groove tunnel, and then I enter. And this is the Moria microrhexis forceps. I go in sideways, puncture to the center, pull down towards me, grabbing the right side of the tear, and I'm able to go around circumferentially. Again, I have beautiful viscodilation with the endocoat, and at least for the rhexis portion, I'm able to get a rather well-centered and sized rhexis with these Moria microrhexis forceps. Again, excellent chamber stability and control, minimal OVD egress with these forceps. Finish off the rhexis. Again, you can see this wild eye movements on this patient. This is the capsule fornix hydrodissection technique. I make sure I'm definitely underneath the rhexis edge. Place it into the capsule fornix, point the tip down, get a nice wave, decompress, lift the lens up, decompress the bag, and then the lens begins to spin here. Very important to be able to get a nice mobile lens, especially when it's a dense cataract and a small pupil. Irrigating the surface of the eye, lifting the incision with the chopper, going in with irrigation off to minimize Descemet's trauma, removing the surface epinuclear material, and then I'm going to perform terminal chop. So I'm going to sculpt first, switching to the sculpt mode, sculpting, 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 making sure I debulk most of the lens, and then switching to chop, placing the chopper under the rhexis edge contra-incisionally, fracturing the lens from the terminal side. And as I do this, I'm able to fracture the lens. The lens starts to kind of rotate on its own. So I rotate 180 degrees, perform another terminal chop maneuver, and now the lens is completely bisected, turning the lens 90 degrees, performing a cross chop maneuver, placing the chopper around the rhexis edge contra-incisionally, fracturing the lens, again, flanking the lens with the instruments and crushing it, and doing that maneuver again, fracturing that first quadrant in half, again, using manual forces, using some vacuum to grab and lift that first piece up, and then getting the chopper around it, crushing the lens into smaller and smaller pieces. And then once the pieces are smaller, again, I crush it some more, and then flutter the foot pedal and emulsify the lens pieces. You can see everything I'm doing very clearly on this overlay. The upper right-hand corner shows my foot pedal. You can see the aspiration, vacuum, and power that I'm using. As you can see, I'm using ultrasonic energy mainly when I'm trying to emulsify the lens pieces. Again, fracturing the lens pieces into smaller pieces, flanking the lens with the instruments, crushing the lens into smaller pieces, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. Again, I'm only utilizing ultrasonic energy when I am ready to emulsify the lens pieces and removing them. Using some vacuum to grab some of these small fragments, again, getting the chopper around it, crushing the lens between the instruments, and then emulsifying the lens pieces. So far, the pupil is still pretty big, which is nice. turning the lens again all the way around, getting the second heminucleus in front of me, sliding the chopper under the rexus edge contra-incisionally, placing the phaco tip deep. I'm able to flank the lens using some vacuum I'm going to try to reposition the lens, do the same thing again. It's just kind of slipping and sliding around. And then using some vacuum to lift the lens up allows me to get the chopper under the lens and then flanking the lens with the chopper and phaco tip and then crushing it in half. And then doing the same maneuver using some vacuum to hold the piece and then getting the chopper around it, crushing the lens against the phaco tip and then emulsifying the lens pieces. So as I'm trying to place that chopper around the lens, if the lens piece starts to roll around, I'm not able to get the chopper all the way around the lens. You can just use a little vacuum to hold the lens. And then by doing so, I'm able to tuck that chopper around the lens, around the lens equator, and then fracture it. This again, repeating the same maneuvers, using the vacuum to hold the piece, and then crushing it with the chopper, and then emulsifying the lens pieces once the pieces are small enough. I don't like to use aggressive ultrasonic energy to emulsify the lens pieces, except for when the pieces are small enough. What this does is significantly limits my use of ultrasonic energy and my need of ultrasonic energy while efficiently removing the lens pieces. You can see some thick epinuclear material now. Most of the endonucleus is gone, but very, very thick epinuclear material. Trying to just crush it with the instruments. As you can see, I don't like to go pedal to the metal with any of my cases, and that's kind of my standard technique. Yeah, it might take a little bit longer for me to get through the case, but I always feel reassured because when I see these patients post-op day one, their corneas are really clear, and it just reinforces my behavior and my technique by just crushing the lens pieces in smaller pieces, limiting ultrasonic energy, and I'm able to have clear corneas, which I feel is best for the patient. So I take the chopper out, push BSS in, take the phaco tip out, and I go in with the eye and the handpiece. Adjusting the sleeve, you can see that the bag is actually pretty clean here. Just polishing under the rexus edge. And I just switched to the viscoelastic. This is cohesive viscoelastic. The bag is actually pretty clean. I'm going to go ahead and sweep. I'm going to be fairly ginger with the sweeping because when I can't really see the rexus edge, it's just a little bit harder to know what I'm doing here. Injecting the single piece acrylic lens into the capsular bag, the ZC Boo. I always like to supplement a little bit of OVD as I push because as I push, more OVD will come out. So supplement simultaneously using that same cohesive viscoelastic cannula to help me leverage and push the injector into the eye and then also then push some OVD to fill the bag some more and then inject the lens into the bag. And then using that same cohesive viscoelastic cannula, help disengage the haptics off the optic. And this way I'm able to be confident that both haptics are in the bag. Go in with irrigation off, activate irrigation, getting underneath the lens, removing all the viscoelastic from within the bag. I'll go ahead and polish under the rexus edge and remove the viscoelastic from the anterior chamber, and then I'll hydrate my incision. So again, this is a patient with somewhat of a small pupil. Fortunately, the pupil didn't come down significantly throughout the case, but the point is a lot of the fracturing maneuvers, terminal chop, cross chop, are all fairly in the periphery at the lens equator. And so all these maneuvers are essentially blind in small pupil situations. Real quickly, let me just interrupt myself. Anytime I have a small pupil situation, I always check to make sure that both haptics are in the bag. How many times have I seen cases of patients with UGG syndrome that present decades later after their surgery, and it turns out that the surgeon inadvertently left one of the haptics out of the bag? Very easy to do for a single piece acrylic lenses. So remember, if you have small pupils, please, please, please always check. Never assume that your haptic is in the bag, especially at the very end of the case and you're not quite sure. Stuff can happen. When you take the cohesive viscoelastic out of the bag with the INA handpiece, one of those haptics can pop out of the bag so easily. You don't want this patient to have UGG syndrome in the future. So just take a minute, use a Lester or something to retract the pupil, make sure that both haptics are in the bag, give you peace of mind, and then you're providing the very best for the patient. And so again, I utilize terminal chop, cross chop. I'm able to leverage manual fracturing techniques to crush the lens into smaller pieces. Again, even though I can't see the periphery underneath the rexus edge with these small pupil cases, I'm very confident because of these techniques and using the chopper, the Kim double chopper, which is extra long and right angled. I'm able to leverage manual fracturing techniques, flanking the lens with the instruments, crushing into smaller pieces, emulsifying the lens pieces, again, restricting my use of ultrasonic energy, and as a result, safe, excellent surgery, and clear corneas post-op day 1. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I thank you for your attention.